Gia was so sure. She was like, I knew exactly what to do. Well, thanks so much for having me. I've been hearing about this reading series for years, and it's just one of those Bay Area treasures. I'm really honored to be able to participate in tonight, so thanks Peg for having me. The novel that Peg just mentioned, A Working Theory of Love, is for sale over there. 100% of the proceeds tonight go to Book Passage. So, if you can. But when Peg sent around the invitation for this, she said the theme is fever for tonight. And I thought, oh, that's funny. Just think I've been working on. It's very different from what I normally do, but it's full of fever. And so I thought I would read from that. So this is a story that I'm actually still in the process of writing, so it's not even completed. But it's based on a very early alien sighting, sort of UFO sighting in Stockton in the late 19th century. So I wanted to write about that, and that's what I'm going to read. I don't have a title right now. Right now I'm using On Self-Reliance, but that's where we are. It was that spring when the mosquitoes were thick as mist and the heat wet and pestilential. I had the fever that was going through, and I was wrapped tight in a blanket, piloting, by which I mean hanging onto the transom, and shivering. A heavy fog, a miasma really, hung like a coal cloud right over the green water, and I felt that same miasma hung in the cavities of my mind. The crew, Quick, Mickey, Jackson, Robbins, Carey, Johnson, and Big Johnson, were lively as a puppet show, mocking the new sailor, Rogers, because his wife was large with child, and Rogers kept going on about what a great man his boy would be. A great man like his father, they asked. That's right, Rogers said, beaming. He was just a boy himself. Well, don't kill us with anticipation, they said. Tell us who the father is. Rogers' face turned red as a blister, while they all laughed their lungs out. A great man who won't be pulling a paddle with a bunch bigger than clods, Rogers said, yanking his oar out of time. Like his real father, they asked again, and so on. Steady, I told the men, but I was barely paying attention. With my free hand, I rubbed my bulging eyes. I should say I'm not a superstitious man. The very opposite, in fact. I was to be a minister in Connecticut, where I'm from, but I broke off my studies. I could not withstand the strictures. The constraints and the convention of the East cinched around me like a smaller man's coat. I felt I could no longer draw a full breath. Worse, I saw that this is the common state of men in the East, though they do not know it, so gradual and sensible is the smothering. I came west, first as a whaler and then into short transport, as I liked sleeping in a bed that did not rise and fall with the waves. That spring, the spring of the fever, was my third in Stockton port. I was pleased to be in such a savage town. Men of all colors and means, islanders with etchings on their faces, and Russians who ate only grease. I once watched a grizzly bear lope down Main Street and rip open Harvard's grain sacks one by one until the storekeeper himself shot it dead. My God, I thought I'm glad I'm not in Connecticut. This is all to say that when the strange craft emerged from the miasma, I was neither unduly aware of nor unduly concerned by its strangeness. I was used to the novel, craved it even. I took the craft for a dink from Cathay or one of those Eskimo kayaks. The craft was as low as a pirogue, but handled the chop with so little rocking it seemed to glide. It was covered in a polished and reflecting metal, like a warship, but the curves of its construction would test even a fanciful shipwright. Again, I was not amazed except in that the craft launched forward in an unexplained fashion and coasted toward us, soundless. Ahoy, ahoy, the men shouted, waving their arms. They believed the craft couldn't see us in the fog, and I too shared that misconception. Only a prickle below my heart, which again I took to be the fever, detected any dark intention. The silhouettes of three narrow men were just visible on board, wearing what I took to be tight-fitting costume. I wondered what diabolical power they employed. They had no oar, no sail, and no steam engine. The craft was clearly going to ram us from the starboard side, exactly amidships. I told the men to reverse, but the craft was already just a hand's width away. It was too late. The But then the craft came to an absolute stop. Even came is the wrong word. It just stopped, as if it had never been moving. My first thought was that she had neglected to pull up anchor, but neither bow nor stern plunged toward the water. And no force reverberated through the craft, as would be expected of such arrested inertia. The three men stepped forward onto the edge of their craft. Miasmatic fog swirled open, giving us a first clear look. It was then that I saw these were men of no land, not men at all, but gray beings covered in a soft fur. I could see in them no obvious strength, but the pressure in my head bulged like a muscle at the sight. Though they had small ears like little jug handles, they had neither nose nor mouth. "No permission to board," I yelled, but my voice was weak from the fever. "No permission to board." The beings ignored my command, stepping into our skiff, turning their blank, smooth faces to me. They did not seem to have normal eyelids, just a heavy ridge of brow. The crew, their oars up for defense, looked to me for orders. "Leave this craft at once," I demanded, as the miasma floated back over us. The beings then did the strangest thing. They spoke, but without words. I do not know how to explain it. They did not mouth their words, for they had no mouths, but they made their points understood as if in our minds very meet, a kind of wireless telegraphy. They thought their thoughts in our heads and then thought our thoughts. This is as clear as I can put it, but these words fail to capture the violence of the event. It could have been no worse if they'd held me down and applied a brand. They thought to me they did not understand why my men had their oars up, ready to strike. I thought that they were unknown to us and boarding a craft illegally. They thought to me that they were our masters and had come to gather us as slaves. I thought to them that we were free men and would rather die than submit. Maybe we have translated wrongly, they thought in my head. The word is servant, but it is also child. They stepped forward, but young Rogers, the expectant father, jabbed his oar blade into one of the soft, gray no-men, staggering to being back. The no-men looked at me with their high, small eyes, but did not share their thoughts. They then each held up their right hands and seemed to float back into their craft. "Why are you resisting, slaves, servants, children?" they asked in my head. "Pull the oars," I demanded, and the crew needed little prompting. Our crafts parted. A warm miasma filled the gap between us and the no-men. "We are free men," I thought. "We are your masters," the voice thought. "We come to gather you." "Damn you," I said. "What's that, Captain?" Mickey said. He was my oldest hand, a red-headed Irishman near on 35. I was talking to the voice. "The voice, Captain?" I asked the crew if the voice was thinking in their heads, and they said no. I told them what the being had said or thought. "Slaves," Mickey said with distaste. "I'd sooner kiss Queen Victoria's corpse." "Children is a queer word," Quick said. "No matter," Jackson said. He touched his Maori jade 3 times and then clapped Rogers on the back. "We've got our George Washington here." "A great man," they all cheered. I looked over my shoulder. I could not see the strange craft. My sleep was troubled. I dreamt I was bound, round and round like a silkworm, and I was struggling to get free. "You must not resist," the gray men thought to me. "How do you breathe?" I demanded. "With no nose and no mouth, how do you breathe?" "We have no need," they said. "When we gather you, you will no longer have this need. You'll never gather me. We will stopper your nostrils and then cover your mouth." "Never," I said. "Resistance will cause difficulties, but acceptance will bring peace." "Never," I shouted, struggling against my confinement. Then I was awake. I smelled the close odor of my room. I swallowed, realizing that I had wrapped myself up in my bedclothes, and they were soaked. The fever had broken. Winds from the west blew in that morning, clearing the miasma. I drank my tea and considered the blank blue sky. Soon summer would be on us, and we would not again suffer fall. That day, nobody in Stockton Port saw anything like the no-man's craft, nor the following day. Even the crew began to doubt. "After all, it was you hearing the things in your mind, Captain," they said. My fever, they thought, was to blame. What about the gray no-men? They was just Bulgarians, the men might say. They picked whatever race they were most ignorant of. Bulgarians, Lithuanians, Mongolians. Then Roger's son was born. The infant was narrow-headed and did not cry. It was clear to the bleariest and blurriest that there was something wrong with him. "Mighty gray, ain't he?" Mickey said. The child opened his mouth and closed it passively, like a goldfish. I waited for the child to announce itself, to howl its human life, but it lay listless. It seemed barely to draw breath. "Thank you."